Okay, this is kind of difficult for me. I collect my thoughts, but I am just a bit lazy. I don't write things down. Then I do, and then I don't. Okay, so, spawning. Now, is that one of those tributary arguments? I didn't mention that about pawning, that it is in fact a tributary. But, okay. Everything suggests that spawning is a didactum. We have the word die, meaning two arguments that are parallel to each other. Dactum is a type of, it's not, it's a false narrative is what dactum is. So didactum, we have two parallel false narratives that are employed, and that is spawning. Okay, so what are these two arguments? Spawning. Okay, so the first one, when people are spawning off of an argument, what is happening in the psychology? Okay, so I say this is compartmentalizing. Okay, now they've taken the argument for themselves and they've compartmentalized it. There's no longer a logical operator working or a reasonable conclusion. What there is a very abrupt abrogation, rationalization. There is, but then we say that there is more like, it's just a truncated argument. The person has just shunted everything to the power concept, really blind ambition, unrestrained power idea. Okay, but do they comport this idea to something else? Well, that's the second part, is comportment, to spawn, and then to run with the devil. That's interesting. I heard that one somewhere. No, that would not be what running with the devil is. It's called on the go, or throwing people on the wheel. So people, you're causing people to go on an offensive. Well, they're going on the offensive and defensive at the same time, because you're spawning on other people, right? So it's this continuous interchange between the ideas of compartmentalizing and comportment, and then these are all trans-induced. So the person is constantly spawning off of people, spawning people, they're spawning, then all these people are all spawning together. And that's what we call a howling mob. That's interesting, the howling mob. The vulgaris, we come up with the vulgar mob. Well, the vulgar mob is an interesting idea. That's to say a raw, unfettered mob of people. um, who have abandoned higher thinking. Um, in reality, it is the same thing. That is the same exact idea. Sometimes I need to come back around on my thoughts a little bit. But yeah. It was used in a bad way to say that, well, yeah, the people that were the elitists, and then you had the underclass, right? But really, if you have these intelligent people who understand the ideas of politicizing people, pawning people, spawning, and then fawning things, and then getting people to fawn. I'll explain that later, but in another lecture here. Yeah. So you really do have people at the top that are continuously committing evil against people and against persons and individuals and their indelible rights to self-rule and sovereignty. True. But they don't have a problem asserting their self-rule, right? Their sovereignty. I mean, their sovereignty is also then tied up with the state and the state's sovereignty. And then you come up with cronyism and, chummy, buddy bullshits. And this is all part of, it is all part of that same process. It's not rationalization. It's very reasonable that they would, wish to pawn each other, ego theft, the constant thievery, and the only honor is to be civil to each other, to continue their own bad behavior, right? So, that's part of ethos, is this also an idea of not just Hitler type of evil where, he's just destroying himself and other people. It's also a matter of principled evil where people understand, doing good can promote their own bad agendas. Duplicity and triplicity, and using these that cause people to be stagnant, really, to be people are then just no longer active. They become confused, and they become emotionally vulnerable to politicizing, and then when they're fully politicized, they're just no longer civically active. It's just a very bad system that we don't have ethics in our government, and this is going off, but spawning is a very important issue, and we don't have ethics in our government, where people are forced to be good people. I mean, politicians are forced to not be politicians, but they're forced to hash out things in a reasonable way. So, if we installed logic, usages and processes, and by scientific probe, our country would be so much better. And then, just basic ethics of, you have to act like you have to act a good person, not like a good person. You must administer yourself as a good person. Yeah, that's an interesting thought. Ministry, administer yourself a good person in the government, That's interesting. Some of the places that use the word ministry have zero ethics. Yeah, and that's a really interesting idea. You know, they really do go there. Ministry, Lords, House of Lords, House of Commons. Well, it's just tradition. We say that, you know, and that's a big load of horse shit and bullshit and bad shit, because that's not true. Anyways, thank you.